Welcome back. I'll talk if you'll listen, episode 28, and I'm back. I'm back from a long break. Some of it intentional, some of it not so much. Thank you for sticking with me. Interestingly enough, everyone, I took a break from the show, and I also took a break from the stats. I didn't look at the stats for the show for pretty much the entire time since the first week of October. And then I turn around and I take a look at the stats the other day, maybe about 2 days ago. It's Thursday now, so maybe Tuesday. And I've gotten a lot of downloads over the past month in my absence. So that means that either a lot of you have caught up, a lot of you are really excited and anticipating a new episode. And for those people, I say thank you for your patience. I do apologize, but hey, look, I'm back now and let's do it. Or we have a bunch of new listeners. And if you're a new listener, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to little old me. And I can't wait to bounce some of my ideas and thoughts off of you. November is an exciting month, is an exciting time because rumor has it that 29 years ago, one of the best things that could ever grace this earth happened on November 9th. I'll let you all do your research and check that out. But also, one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite holiday, is Thanksgiving because it involves a lot of food. I'm not going to sit here and be sappy and say, oh, it gives you the opportunity to be around people you love. No, every day of every year gives you an opportunity to be around people you love and the fellowship and to have that sense of togetherness. Now, there is nothing like the festive time that comes with the holiday season. I will admit that. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with my brother, my biological brother, this holiday season, and particularly Thanksgiving. So more on that later. But it's a lot of food, and I love being around a lot of food. I love to eat. Having a fast metabolism definitely helps because I can eat and then it just comes right out. I don't have to worry about it sitting. I know a lot of you are jealous and or envious of that, but it's definitely a fun benefit of having a fast metabolism is being able to enjoy 3, 4, 5 plates, and not to mention the leftovers. Say what you will, there's nothing like leftovers from Thanksgiving. Even if you don't celebrate the holiday, almost anyone's house that you're going to go over, they're going to have a ton of food, and you're pretty much looking at a lunch for work for maybe about 3-4 days. So for all of you who are living paycheck to paycheck and are complaining about how you don't have enough money, Thanksgiving is a godsend, essentially, because you don't have to worry about spending money on breakfast and or lunch and or dinner for the next couple of days. And in some cases, if you time it right, if you plan it right, the whole week. So look at that. Average meal probably costs you $8 to $11 for lunch. You multiply that times 5-day work week, whether you're off on the weekends or not. You're looking anywhere between, at least $88 savings. Let's just say that. You don't realize how much money you spend every day getting lunch. I remember one time, and I call myself being cheap. I worked in a densely urban environment, so there were a ton of fast food restaurants everywhere. And I would hit up McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or Popeyes daily for lunch. I rarely bought my own lunch. I remember doing the math because, me personally, I thought I was saving money by only spending $4 here, $5 there. Not realizing that, 1 month I spent over $200 just on lunch. And it was crazy. You really don't realize. So here's a little fun game. Here's a challenge. It won't be fun because you'll probably have a heart attack after you see the number. But here's something I challenge you. Take a look at any receipt or log into your bank statement and take a look at anything that you spent lunch on for just one day. It doesn't have to be a 5-day average or anything like that. Just maybe 1 or 2 days. Take a look at that total ticket cost, or for you young folk, the receipt. Just take a look at the receipt. And multiply that by however many days you work a week. And then whatever that number is, multiply it by 4, because on average 4 weeks in a month. And just take a look at that number. It'll be staggering. It's crazy. You know what? Hey, look, let's do it now. So on average, and I thought I was saving money. I thought I was being smart by only going shopping on the dollar menu. So on average, let's say my bill was let's just round up and say $5, right? This is easy math. You multiply that by 5-day work week, that's 25. You multiply that by 4, it's $100 a month just on food. To put it in perspective for you, it'll cost me about $15 for the whole week to feed myself, to get dinner or lunch for a week. You multiply that by 4, that's $60. So you're automatically saving like $40 a month just by bringing your own, and that's just being real cheap. I mean, you can get fancy, make yourself some fancy dinners, but you take a look at me, just spaghetti. You get your $1 box of pasta, you get $3 worth of spaghetti sauce, you get $5-6 worth of hamburger meat or ground turkey, whatever it is that you prefer to eat. And bam, there you go. You got dinner for at least 3-4 days, depending on how much you bring with you and if you eat when you're at home. So you got dinner for at least 4 days or so. And even if you take, let's say on a typical work week, let's say it's Monday through Friday for you or Sunday through Thursday, whatever. And that last day of the work week, you go ahead and pig out and you go and buy that lunch. You're at that, fast food place. You treat yourself to a cheesesteak, a burger, whatever. You're still spending less money than you would have spent eating out every day. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't know how I got on this topic, but it's definitely something that it does bug me personally when you hear people complaining of, I need a new job or I need more money or they're living paycheck to paycheck, but they just simply manage their money poorly. I think all of us can manage our money better. And I remember one buddy said, it only took him $10 to eat for the week. And I said, well, that's dope, because, he'll just do pasta and then spaghetti sauce. And that's that. Now, some of us have families to feed. Some of us are parents, and I get that. But if you're single and you don't have any kids to worry about, and I mention that if you're single because having a partner is another bill in and of itself. But if you're single, you have no kids to worry about, especially if you live at home with your parents. But even if you live on your own, like I do, I live on my own. There's no real excuse. I mean, if you're making 5-star meals every night for dinner, that's really on you. That's really your preference, your bougie taste buds. You got to have something over the top. If you're getting coffee every day from the most expensive coffee place because they grow the beans at the place and ground the beans at the place on site and give you the coffee while wearing 24 karat gold toe rings and, you got to have the best premium quality coffee. That's on you. You need to realize that's on you. There's nothing wrong with Dunkin' Donuts. There's nothing wrong with the Walmart brand of coffee. It's just your bougie taste buds. Gotta be on 10 all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. So before I get into the meat of these topics, if anything, on this damn near 10-minute rant, just know that more than likely you're probably the biggest cause for your financial woes. Take a look at that and then reassess your situation. One thing that I mentioned this on the earlier episode, one thing that I fell out of habit of doing this, but one thing that I used to love to do was I take a bank statement of any given month and I plug that into an Excel spreadsheet. I exported the data into an Excel spreadsheet. If you don't have Excel, if you don't have access to Excel, you have a phone, so you more than likely have access to some spreadsheet program that you could download. But even if you don't, you could take a piece of paper and a pencil. And what I did was I literally looked at every single last expense that I had for the month. And what I did was I took all of the constant things that I had to pay or that were like reoccurring. For example, Spotify membership, even something as frivolous as that, it still counts. Even though it's $10 a month, it still counts. To something major like internet or rent or, phone bill. And I added all, and I got a total number. And I took that total number and I subtracted it. And what I did was I took all of the money that I made, the total, the paycheck, both paychecks or 3 paychecks if it was one of those weird months. And I added it together. And what I did was I took the total sum of all my expenses and I subtracted it from the total sum of my, income. And I was pretty shocked because I was looking at that and I was like, wow, I should have X amount of dollars left over. Why don't I feel like it? Just to throw a number out there, I should have $400 or $500 extra left over. Why do I only have like $100, $200 left over between paychecks. What's going on with that? And it really helps for self-reflection. It really helps you sit down and take a look at some of what you're doing and what you need to do, be doing better. And it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. Self-reflection is really important, especially when you find yourself in financial holes, romantic holes. How many of us know somebody that, found themselves bouncing from relationship to relationship, and every time you talk to them, it always seems to be the other person's fault. We need to be that friend to step up and say, hey, no, it's probably you. You're the one common denominator in all of your relationships. Every time you say you've gotten in a relationship and then it ended up not working out, you always blame the other person and talk about how they was a control freak. Well, maybe it has something to do with you. If you're dating 6, 7 people a year or over a 2-year period, over an 18-month period, and the excuse is constantly the same, you need to take a step back and look in the mirror instead of looking out the window and try to figure out what's the problem. Remember, everyone, it usually starts with us. If your kids are bad, if your kids are a pain in school, if your kids' teachers are having a tough time to deal with them, you need to look at yourself. If you find yourself that every time a promotion at work comes up and you never get it, you need to look at yourself. You need to realize that you're always late getting up, or getting to work or getting to school. You need to take a look at yourself. You're living from paycheck to paycheck. You always find yourself borrowing money, or that off pay week, you find yourself constantly eating ramen noodles. You need to look at yourself, and I think it's really, really important that you do that. I've had a ton of time to look at myself this past month. And one of the biggest self-reflections, just rolling into the first topic that I wanted to talk about, was my high school reunion. So I had a 10-year high school reunion. It's been 10 years. At first, saying that out loud makes it feel kind of scary, but then it feels really refreshing. First and foremost, 10 years, as much as we joke around, 10 years isn't really that much of a long period of time. It's really not. A lot can happen in a month, let alone 10 years, true. But at the same time, it's not really that much time, relatively speaking. And I had a ball. I had the time of my life at my 10-year anniversary. And at first, when I initially thought about a 10-year, when it first came up in topic of conversation about maybe a year or two ago, I did think about not going. I told myself I wouldn't go. And the reason I told myself I wouldn't go is I think anyone who, and I'll get to this later, but I was very surprised to find out how many of my peers actually listen to this show, especially because I don't talk to them on a daily basis. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And I know this recap is long overdue because the reunion was back in October. But one thing that anyone who went to high school can attest is I was not popular at all. Everyone knew me, though. I was known. Everyone knew me. Every group of friends, whether it be the seniors, the juniors, when we were back, when we were freshmen, when we were in ninth grade, or whether it be the nerds or the bookworms or the jocks or the super duper popular kids. Or the hoes. There were hoes. Let's admit it. We all had hoes in high school. And that doesn't just apply to women. It applies to men too. But regardless of the circle, I was known. Like, I wasn't popular. I wasn't super popular. Everyone's face didn't light up when I walked into the room. I wasn't the topic of discussion in every gossip session. That wasn't me. But I was able to go to any lunchroom in the cafeteria and sit with anybody. I was able to hang out with anybody during lunch. I was able to just sit with anybody and converse with anybody and or is it conversate? Which word is it that's not the real one? Is it converse or conversate? I always get it confused. I was able to just fellowship with anybody that I wanted to. And that was really dope. So, but I knew I wasn't really popular. I wasn't really like the talk of the town. I didn't really have any fond memories with anybody, so to speak, outside of a couple of people. So I felt like, hey, what was the point in going? And then I had to change my perspective. I was able to do that in part by reading a book. I talked about it before. I'm reading a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's by Stephen Covey. And it talks about paradigm shifting and challenging yourself to look through a different lens and to look through and view things differently. So instead of looking at it from a high school state of mind, a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old state of mind, I chose to look at it from a 28-year-old state of mind. And that I'm really excited to see how far everyone's come as a parent, how far everyone's come as an adult, how far everyone's come as a professional or as an entrepreneur, and how far everyone's come as a husband or a wife. And I was really excited to see that. Did I see people that probably didn't remember me? Absolutely. Did people get my name wrong? Absolutely. But that's not what it's about. It's about, hey, I at least know who you are, or at least I know of you. And I want to see how far along you've come in life. I think the biggest reason that a lot of us don't go to events like this is because we look at it like, well, hey, what's in it for me? Those people don't like me. I don't like them. I think if you choose to look at it that way, your brain is still in high school mode. You haven't really grown much. As much as you think you have, whether you have kids, whether you're in a blooming career or not. If your mindset is the same way it was when you graduated, there's not much maturity happening there. And I don't mean to bash you necessarily. I just want to let you know it's a very immature way of kind of looking at things. But if you choose to look at it like, hey, and at the end of the day, I want to be very, very clear, because there's some people I've spoken to about, not going to their high school reunion. They don't want to go. That's fine. It's your choice. I'm not necessarily saying, you're a horrible person for not wanting to go. Everyone has their own reason for doing everything. But let me be the person, because your friends won't tell you this probably. Let me sit here and tell you that, you should get a genuine joy out of seeing how far along people have come. And, there's a saying out there that says, learn from your mistakes, right? You should learn from other people's mistakes too. You should take the opportunity to take a look at what the other people's successes and failures and go from there. And a high school reunion is the perfect opportunity to do that. Well, hey, maybe you talk to somebody who dropped out of college, and maybe you want to talk to them about why that happened. Maybe you want to talk to somebody who had a rough time in college, but they ended up graduating. Maybe you want to talk to them about that. Maybe you want to talk to someone who's an entrepreneur who maybe has their own business. Maybe you want to talk to somebody who's a parent, or maybe you're pregnant or about to be a father and you talk to somebody who's recently had a child. Those are great networking and social opportunities for you, and for you to just overlook that. How many of us bump into somebody at a grocery store or out and about, and they share a really cool story from us, and they're a complete stranger? Like, we run into that, that neighbor that we've never spoken to, and they tell us a little bit of history about the neighborhood. Or they tell us the best time to go at a certain place because, drinks are cheaper or food is cheaper. And you walk away from that feeling like you've gained knowledge, and you're a better person for that interaction, that exchange. Now multiply that by X, because that's what you're going to get at a high school reunion, in my opinion. And speaking of which, so my high school reunion was really, really dope. It was definitely a confidence booster from the sense of, feeling like I was attractive, feeling like that people wanted to be around me. And it was definitely a humbling experience when I tell you countless friends and peers and old classmates came up to me and said, hey, I listened to your show. I really like what you're doing. Or, hey, can I be on your show? I even had one friend who said she wanted to manage all of my social media accounts for the show. And that was extremely humbling. Sometimes when you have a hobby like this, whether it be gaming, whether it be knitting, whether it be blogging, whether it be being a podcaster, and you realize that, the people that you interact with on a daily basis, when they listen to your show, it's not a surprise, right? But when you find out that people that you know, but you don't interact with on a regular basis, that they listen to your show and they're really excited about it, or they're involved in your hobby, whatever it is, it's a good feeling. It's a happy feeling. It's really, really fun. So I had a lot to be thankful for. I also won Best Dressed, just so you know. Just so y'all know, just to rub that in a little bit. My friend Bobby, shout out to Bobby. I talked about Bobby before. He is the chairman for Lola's Butterflies nonprofit organization that we talked about before on the show. It's a classmate of mine. He was there, and he was going around with a list of who to vote for certain things. And they said, hey, you can vote for whoever's on the list, or you can write your name down. I was feeling good. I was a little tipsy. I was having a good time. I said, I was feeling myself a little bit. And I said, well, hey, why not? And I wrote my name down. And then lo and behold, he got up to announce everybody, and lo and behold, I won. And it was a great experience. It just goes to show you that, when you go to high school, you're oftentimes thinking about how people viewed you when you were a teenager. It's very important that you think about how people view you now as an adult. And that was a humbling experience. That was pretty fun. I had the time of my life. I got to interact and reconnect with a lot of people. I got to talk about some memories. And it was just so fun, man. I had a good time. I had a hell of a hangover the next day. And I felt like a zombie, and even went over to a friend's house and tried to play some games, and I couldn't. I basically passed out on the couch. I was done, but I had a great time. It was well worth it. And I was really, really excited about that experience. So let me know, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you're listening on YouTube. Let me know via email, or of course on Twitter and Instagram. All of that information will be in the comment section. In the description below. Let me know about what was your experience like at your high school reunion, if you had a high school reunion, or what do you anticipate your experience being like in your high school reunion if you haven't had it yet? And what are some of your reservations? What are some of your things that you're anxious about that maybe you don't want to go? I would love to bounce some ideas off of you, and hopefully I can convince you to go, and hopefully you have a good time. Another thing that happened last month was the anniversary of the death of my mother. My mother passed away in 2015, in October 2015, October 14th of 2015. And October was always a rough time for me. I didn't have the best relationship with my mom, but at the end of the day, it was still my mother. And my father was killed when I was 11. My mother passed away from cancer, when I was an adult. And, here I am, not even 30 yet, and both my parents are gone, and when stuff like that really sets in, it gets really, really rough. Regardless of what your relationship was, you start to think about certain things. My kids won't know their grandparents. You start to get a little depressed a little bit. If I ever have kids, they won't get to meet, my father, my mother. They won't get to share stories. They won't get to hear stories, embarrassing stories about how I used to wet the bed growing up, or, how I used to do silly things growing up. And, it's kind of a hurt piece a little bit, so, you go through that and those feelings start to set in. And then you start to get hit with other thoughts. Last night I was just thinking about my dad randomly, and the type of man he was, and how he was a community leader, and how people looked up to him, and how all of my cousins idolized him, and how, my grandmother just loved him. And, I was just thinking, like, I hope I'm even half the man, that he was. And, it's bittersweet when I talk to family members or I post pictures and they say, oh, you look just like your dad. It brings a smile on my face knowing that, I resemble greatness, because my dad was a great man. But it's sad too, knowing that, like, I'll never have a conversation with him about, what his political views were, or, how he may disagree with the career move that I'm making, or, talking to him. It's nothing like talking to your dad about relationship issues. You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your uncles, you can talk to your brothers, but talking with your dad, because ultimately you're a byproduct of what his relationship experience was. You were born. And it's I'll never have the experience to talk to him about, hey, what was it like dealing with my mom? Because my mom was crazy. She was a piece of work. And it just goes to show you how patient and tolerant my dad was to stick around long enough. And who knows, maybe I know for a fact I wasn't planned. And maybe that helped him remain patient, and maybe that helped him to remain tolerant when he found out that my mom was pregnant with me. And I'm his only child, so of course I was his first child that I know about. No, I'm just joking. And I know I was his world, and I know he wanted to bring me into a great world and do great things for me. And I just would just love to talk to him about that. I'll never be able to talk to him about that. And like thoughts like that kind of seep in, gets me emotional, and it's emotions that I don't know how to deal with because I don't really confront those emotions often. And it really puts my friends and family members in an awkward position because, if they're not in the same situation, you don't know what to say to somebody. You want to be there for them, but you don't know how to be there for them. But at the same time, you want to let the person know that, like, hey, you can talk to me. But sometimes, and this isn't a slight against my friends. Sometimes I feel like, for what? Talk to you about what? For what? You won't understand. You won't get it. But at the same time, it's a conundrum because I'm thankful for that shoulder. I'm thankful for that time of day. I dealt with that in the middle of October. It was definitely something that I feel like I'm always going to deal with. It gets easier with time, but it also gets harder with time because when I'm 40 and maybe I have kids, I'll replay that in my mind all over again. They'll never get to meet their parents. I'll never have to bug my mom and ask her to babysit. I'll never get to do any of that, but, that's something. And, especially around this time of the years, the last quarter of the year is always rough. It's my birthday, experiencing my birthday without my parents, experiencing Thanksgiving without my parents, experiencing the holiday season without my parents. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't deal with that. However, I do like the festivities that come along with it. I like the idea of people sitting around a Christmas tree and handing out gifts. I like the idea of my family members celebrating Kwanzaa. My dad celebrated Kwanzaa. I like the idea of, sharing gifts and experiences and hot cocoa and, my mom's sweet potato pie and, going over my grandmom's house and laughing and reminiscing. I like the festivities that come with that, and to know that my parents won't be around for that is a hurt piece. So if you know me personally and I seem a little standoffish, I seem a little moody, I seem irritable, the first thing you should think about is what you did to piss me off. No, I'm joking. It's just this time of year for me. I get really moody, just kind of like in spring. Everyone is kind of like extra horny for some reason. Love is in the air, as they say. Around this time of the year, I get pretty moody. Sometimes depressed, but more moody and easily irritated. And it's just me dealing with things. So just bear with me. Another thing that happened last month, something I was extremely proud of, was the AIDS Walk. So the Philly AIDS Walk, 2018 AIDS Walk, is help raise funds to people dealing with AIDS and HIV, and I participated with that. If some of you all don't know, now you know, I am a Mason. Masonry, if you want to know what it is, it literally is a fraternity. It's the world's largest and oldest fraternity. And we're all about charity. Charity is great. It extends beyond the grave. Even after you're gone, the effects of your charity remain. And it's not about what people think about you. It's about what people think about the work that you're doing. And I luckily, being a Mason has helped not only me understand the purpose of charity, it helped me get access to opportunities to be charitable, because, I've been introduced to a ton of programs like the AIDS Walk that I wouldn't have otherwise known about if I wasn't a Mason. So I'm really happy to be a Mason. My lodge participated in the AIDS Walk. I posted a video on my Facebook. And I believe I made it public. So even if you're not my friend on Facebook, you can check it out. I also posted a video to Instagram, but I don't think you can view that anymore. And I'll actually work on posting a video on YouTube. My YouTube's been a little dry lately, so I'll go ahead and post that video on YouTube. I think a lot of the reason all of the negative rumors about Masonry is around, about how we worship the devil and how we're the Illuminati, et cetera, the biggest reason for that is ignorance. People don't know what we do. They just see a bunch of men in black suits and bow ties, with weird regalia on, going into a building that if you're not a Mason, you're not allowed into, which is false. You actually can come into a Masonic building, even if you're not a Mason, and get things like tours and visit the gift shop and the museums and things like that. But I'm sure a lot of you all and people in general just don't know that, and what happens is it leads Masonry's enemies or just the fearful to come up with rumors. And when you don't know, you believe something when it's convenient for you to believe that, especially if you're overly religious and you're very, very spiritual or superstitious. You believe in things like, oh, this person is influencing the government and this person is, in an Illuminati and has sinister plans. And there's always exceptions to every rule. There's always, coincidences. I'm sure there are some bad apples out there who are Masons, and that's unfortunate. But it's just like every organization, not every politician is corrupt. Not every Mason is a good Mason, but the majority of Masons are good Masons, and they became Masons to become better. And Masonry fuels almost everything that I enjoy. It fuels my want for charity. It fuels my want for brotherhood and fellowship. It fuels my networking need. It fuels a lot of different things, and it helps me to be active in the community. So if you're interested in becoming a Mason, or you're in the process of becoming a Mason, or if you just have questions, hit me up. Let me know. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And all you got to do is ask. A lot of our philosophy encourages us to not go out and I know that was horrible English, but we're not really encouraged to go out and share information just willingly. We do encourage people to ask, but the information is there if you want it. So feel free to ask. A really, really good friend of mine is becoming a Mason, and he had a ton of questions, and he and I had a very fulfilling conversation. And if you got any questions, feel free to ask. I'm so happy I'm a Mason. I'm glad that I'm a Mason, just to talk about some of the things that we're doing. I'm participating in a clothing drive for the homeless this weekend. And just to prove how much Masonry has helped me grow as a person, it's my birthday weekend. My birthday is Friday. I have plans for this weekend, and I'm going to be out in Center City, Philadelphia, handing out clothes to the homeless. And that's a birthday gift for me. I think that's so dope. I also will be participating in Thanksgiving Day baskets. We're going to be handing out some turkeys for Thanksgiving. That's going to be dope. And then we're going to do a toy drive in December. I'll talk about some dates for that too. We're going to do a toy drive where we donate toys to kids who are suffering from certain diseases. In this case, I believe it's sickle cell. But it could be any child that's current. We're going to do it at St. Christopher's Hospital in Philly. Again, if anyone I'll come in future episodes with more information. But if you just want to hit me up about that, let me know. Or if you're a Mason and you listen and we haven't met, or we don't know that we're both Masons, hit me up. I would love to talk some Masonry with you. I would love to go out and have a drink with you, and I would love to visit your lodge. I think that would be dope. But yeah, so that's going on, and that's some of what happened last month. And one of the last things I wanted to talk about, you all, I know this is a pretty long episode, but I appreciate you all. I was away for a while, so I guess I had to make up for lost time, right? So I was out and about recently, out in the world, and I went to go visit somewhere, and I took a look at how this is going to sound creepy, but I think a lot of us do this, whether we want to admit this or not. But I love people watching. I love from a scientific point. Like, I just love to see social interaction, how awkward people are, or how brilliant people are, how amazing people are. And that could be anything from watching a band play, like a local band on the sidewalk play, to watching people argue in a retail store, like a Walmart or something. I think there's useful information to come out of every social interaction. And if you can take that information and become a better person, then it's well worth it. And one thing that I noticed during this latest social observation is that there were a lot of people obsessed with their self-image, and they were walking around Snapchatting, live streaming literally them walking down the street. There was a young lady, there was a young lady who was walking down the street, and she was right in front of us, very obnoxious, just filming herself, literally not saying anything, just walking down the street. And it kind of made me wonder, like, what are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? Who are you doing this for? And it kind of got me thinking about self-image, about how you take a look at the woman whose hair is on 10 all of the time. You take a look at the guy who constantly has to have the latest shoes on. You take a look at, the person wearing the latest Louis Vuitton bag or the latest Chanel glasses or whatever. And it kind of got me to thinking, because I saw a lot of people like that. And it kind of got me to thinking about the other people on the other end of the spectrum. The people who probably got their clothes from Ross and they were just sitting there enjoying. They were sitting in the park, reading books, genuinely laughing. And they were focused on they were focused on something that wasn't them. They weren't focused on themselves. They were giving all of their attention into the book that they were reading. They were giving all of their attention to the person that they were with. They were giving all of their attention to the band playing on the sidewalk. They were giving all of their attention to the store. I even went into a couple of stores and people were live streaming themselves shopping. Like, are you serious? It's crazy. And it just kind of got me thinking about the people who are focused on themselves, the people who constantly post selfies, the people who constantly are on Instagram and Snapchat, and it's always about me, 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 me. And then it got me to thinking about different aspects of their life, like their work career, how successful they could be in that line of work. Or it got me thinking about their romantic relationship. It got me to thinking about, well, if you're this self-absorbed and you're obsessed with yourself, what is it like in your relationship? You're probably very demanding. And when you can't get what you want, you're essentially kind of spoiled. When you can't get what you want, then it's that other person's problem. And I just wanted to get you guys' opinion on, in your opinion, this is opinion for two different groups here. In your opinion, why do they do that? Why do people feel like they need to do that? And what were your experiences like if you were ever in a relationship with someone who is that self-absorbed? They're constantly posting pictures. They're constantly, live streaming everything that they do. They gotta walk out the house with the latest clothing on, looking good. Walking out the house in tights and a sweatshirt is unacceptable for them. They have to be, hair always has to be done, et cetera, et cetera. And this is directed towards men and women, by the way. Why do you think they do that? What is that? And for those of you who listen, who find yourself in that boat where you're constantly posting pictures on social media, you're constantly live streaming everything that you do. You constantly, your makeup is on 1,000% every time you leave the house. Your Jordans are the latest Jordans every time you leave the house. You got to have the latest designer clothing on every time you leave the house. Why do you do that? I'm genuinely curious, because it could be some things bred in insecurity. It could be a poor life experience. It could be for certain things that, maybe you need to talk about. Maybe you need to get those emotions out there. So why do you do that? What's the science behind that? I'm just very, very curious. So it just kind of got me to thinking, and I would love to hear you all's feedback. And lastly, before I get to this week's Idle Thoughts section and talk a little bit about that, I do want to let you all know that although I did not reach my Patreon goal, I have accrued enough to get that new microphone. So I will get that new microphone. I will be doing an unboxing video exclusively for my patrons. I have a Facebook Patreon page exclusive for my patrons. And I will be doing a live unboxing video exclusively for my patrons as a thank you, just so you all know where the money's been going, and just so you all know that I haven't been abusing it, and just so you see the product. And I think that'll be a cool treat. It won't be over the top, but it is exclusive content. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, or even if you just want to support me and help things for the show, for example, I do need a new laptop, or even it's like, sound quality, or even if it's to pay someone to come onto the show to do an interview, I will start reaching out to people of significant status. I'm actually going to try to get a state representative on the show, some big stuff in the future here. And I may have to compensate them for their time, especially if they have to set aside the time for me. So I will be having open discussions for my patrons on what the money needs to go to. I think it should be a two-way conversation. I don't want to just come up with what I'm going to put the money towards. I do want to have a conversation, whether it be towards a gift card raffle, whether it be towards, thank you cards, or hey, whether it even be towards like birthday cards or Christmas cards. I would love to do that for all of my patrons. Just to send out Christmas cards or Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you celebrate, or birthday cards, even if it's like Valentine's Day candy. I would love to send you all some stuff. And of course, that costs money. I would love to do that. Essentially, you're paying for your own gift, I know, but not in its entirety. In a sense, you are paying for someone else's gift. You're paying for them to have something nice. So that would be cool. It can also go towards merchandise. I did have a bunch of I'll Talk If You'll Listen stickers made that I've been passing around to people that I see on a regular basis. But if you would like one, let me know. I don't mind mailing one to you. I think it's a nice sticker. You can put it on the back of your car, put it on your laptop, put it on your desk, whatever whatever you want. You put it on a mug, your favorite cup, whatever. It can go towards stuff like that. So if you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link below. My Patreon will be posted in the description. One of the things that make me really, really happy is entrepreneurship, especially when it's from friends that I know. My buddy Rich is an entrepreneur himself, and he's involved in a very, very unique business. It's not something like a coffee shop, and it's not something like, let's say, business cards. He does something that's very unique, and he markets for companies digitally. He helps improve their social presence online. And he has a very sophisticated method of doing that, and it works. It bears results. I wanted to have Rich on for a couple of reasons. One, he's my good friend, and I wanted to get word out on his business. I think it's very important that we support our peers. But also, his business is very unique, and I haven't come across anyone who actually does anything like this. So I think it'd be pretty cool for you all to have access to someone who does something like this. And he's going to go into more detail about what he does. But also, I want to let you all know that, entrepreneurs are people too. We're humans. We have our own passions, our own goals. And you get to see the human side of things. Oftentimes when we hear about entrepreneurs, even if it's a peer, we don't really see the human side of things. We just say, hey, they're into making money. They want to have their own business. They want to be successful. But no, they have hobbies too. They play video games. They go out. They read books. They do things too. And I think the more we see the human side of people, the more likely we're willing to invest in what they have to say. People don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. And I think that's really, really important. So without further ado, here's Rich. He's talking about his business, Purple Dot Marketing, what they do, and how they came to be. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Another week, another guest. This time around, we have a really good friend of mine, essentially almost like a little brother of mine. We have Rich. Rich, how are you, man?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm great, man. Fantastic. I just came back from a fraternal event over this past weekend, so I had the last 2 days off of work, but it didn't feel like I was off of work because I was running around like crazy and I got very little sleep. So I never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually ready to go back to work today.
Wow, that's pretty intense if you have to get to that point.
Yeah, man. I didn't think the fraternal event covered the entire state of Pennsylvania. And in my unique office, I'm responsible for so many different things, and I never thought I would be this involved in my fraternity. So it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. So I'm a little exhausted, but I'm excited, not just to get back to work, but excited to have you on. How about you, buddy? How's your week going so far?
It's going really great. Had a great meeting with you guys yesterday, which was awesome. And so far I had a very productive week with business and hiring new employees and getting ready to bring on some new clients as well. It's been pretty exciting.
Oh man, that does sound exciting, actually. And I want to dive into that a bit. So you spoke about hiring new employees. You talk about bringing on new clients. So what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. Yeah. So the name of my company is Purple Dot Marketing. And basically what we do is we mainly target small businesses looking to grow in the social media and digital marketing area. And so it's been a passion of mine for a while to help other entrepreneurs and other small businesses grow in these areas, because like as social media becomes more prevalent and a larger community, there's more opportunity to grow your brand, grow your business, but at the same time, it's also super time consuming. And if you don't necessarily keep up with Facebook and Instagram, like what their algorithms are for getting noticed and getting your ads out there, that can also be time consuming to figure that out. And it's a pain point for a lot of small businesses, because a lot of small businesses start because they love doing one thing or the other. So I use an example of, like, if somebody's in videography, like wedding videography and photography, or they're in arts, creative works, things like that. They started a business primarily because they love that kind of thing, and they want to have as much time as possible to do it and monetize it. But a lot of times what happens when you're in business, that there's so many other things that start to take up your time that you don't really get to do what you really love to do a lot of times in your business, and that is actually work on your craft. So we kind of alleviate the stress of marketing your company digitally by taking all that on us, and in a very, very cost-effective and fair way. So that's basically what we do.
Wow, man, that's really cool. I want to pick apart some of what you said, because I think it's easily overlooked but desperately needed in the world that we're in right now. So you specifically target small businesses for now, and I think that's dope, because small businesses are run by people who look like us, right? They're run by moms, they're run by dads, they're run by, your neighbor. They're run by people that you don't mind supporting, someone that's tangible, somebody you can actually look at and see and touch, as opposed to maybe someone who may fit that same description, who may be a parent, who may be a stalwart in their community, but they're in some corporate office somewhere in New York or Texas, somewhere you would never see. So I think that's the beautiful part about targeting small businesses in particular. But just to expand on that a little bit, when you talk about the fact that they don't have enough time because they don't maybe have the resources, the tools, or the employees to do the advertisement. They don't have the time for that. And the way that you guys come in and kind of help supplement that and help make a way for them to do that, I think that's awesome. More specifically, because just like you mentioned, marketing and advertisement is going in the way of, digital and social media now. I remember at one point you could watch Facebook videos and there wouldn't be any ads. Now there are ads on Facebook videos, there are ads on timelines. So this is the next big deal. And I think it's really, really cool that you want to help small businesses really get their name out there. So are there any particular benefits that you've seen so far that helps these small businesses get their name out of there by going towards social media marketing and digital marketing?
Yeah, I think the best example of that is, when we first started implementing these strategies with a company we work very close with, as an example, once we implemented our strategies we have, they started seeing within about 3-4 month period, basically about a 700% return on the investment that they spent in marketing. So basically, every $1,000 they would spend on marketing, you would see about a $7,000 return on that investment. And really where the benefit that comes in, not just from the sales numbers, which is amazing, but like we mentioned before, it's also the extra time that you now have as a small business owner to focus on other aspects of your business. It's not that, small business owners don't necessarily have the time to market. They do, but it's a lot of times it's time they could have spent doing other things they really want to do or what they really want to focus on in growing their business culture, their employees, things like that. And, you know, when you're a small business owner, you're so much of it, especially when you first start out, so much of it is on your shoulders. Like so many of the different roles you're taking on a little bit of every single role, like sales, marketing, the books, running the finances, helping your employees grow and pay stuff, pay scale, like so many different things you're in charge of. And then a lot of times you barely get to do what you actually want to do. So I would say the largest benefit I've seen that small business owners get is like I'm alleviating stress from dealing with that, but while also at the same time seeing really, really incredible results on the efforts that we make for their marketing.
Oh, that's cool, man. I think another thing that you mentioned there is all the specific things that small business owners go through, let alone advertising and marketing. And it's cool because it's almost like outlining some of the things that you had to do to start Purple Dot Marketing. Not that we have a huge audience of entrepreneurs. I'm sure there's at least one or two that maybe dabble in different things, whether it's something like selling apparel or whether it's something like running a nonprofit organization, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of the hardships and struggle and challenges and even rewards and benefits that you've gone through recently and getting everything together with Purple Dot? And what advice would you give someone who may be in the same phase of their life that you are?
That's a great question. So I would say the first thing, so when I first quit my job to focus full time on business, I was super excited. I get to make my own schedule. I can be my own manager and basically be, the captain of my own destiny here. I can do whatever I want. And one of the biggest challenges when I first started this was what I thought would be the great part of it, and that was being my own boss, not having to answer other people and do my own thing. So what I thought was going to be a really, really awesome thing actually became one of my biggest stressors and biggest struggle areas. And really, it's the area of self-discipline. Different people are going to struggle with things differently, but for me, my whole life, I've worked in sales for, over 13 years, and I always had somebody to report to, always somebody holding me accountable. And as soon as I became a business owner, I didn't have that anymore. And it was actually surprising to see how difficult it was to stay like self-disciplined and self-motivated without answering to anybody else. So I would say that was definitely the biggest hardships that I had starting a business. I would say one of the things that I loved the most about it was the fact that I could really start to develop my own processes and develop my own reasons for why we do things. So, so many times when I've worked a job in the past, there's things here and there, which I'm sure we've all experienced. We're like, wow, if I was running this thing, I'd be doing this so much differently than what is being done, but I can't control that because I'm not a manager. Well, one of the most freeing things is like, well, now, like I know from my years of sales experience and working in management, working in sales positions, whatever, seeing like I know what works and what I've seen that didn't work for me. And so I was able to, over time, really like take mental notes of things that I want to implement in my future business and things that I don't want to do and do the opposite of. So that's been really exciting to start developing those processes. And I would say the biggest piece of advice, if you do start a business, even no matter how much you think you know about your field or how much you think you can handle it on your own, there's no such thing as a self-made person. Like you'll hear people describe themselves as like they're a self-made millionaire or the self-made man, whatever. And there really is no such thing because you grow and develop and get better with the help of other people. So I would say the biggest piece of advice is to find yourself a group of people that you can meet with regularly to hold you accountable, to help you work through some of your struggles, to uplift you, encourage you of the things you are doing right, help remind you of the things you're doing well, because it's also very easy, for myself at least, that when I fail to think, today was just a failure. I screwed up so badly, everything's done. But it's like when you have other people around you that are seeing from an outside perspective, they can be like, well, no, actually, you failed at this, but during that time, you also succeeded at this, 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 and that. And it's kind of just like a reminder of like, oh, wow, yeah, I am doing a good job. And so, yeah, I would just say there's so many other reasons for why that's great, but really surrounding yourself with other like-minded individuals who are motivated and can really complement the areas that you struggle in.
That's phenomenal advice. And just to expand on that and to let the audience know, you, another content creator, and I, the three of us, we got together last night for about 2 hours and discussed things like that. And just to echo some of the things that you said about just creating an environment of not only accountability but just encouragement. When you surround yourself with people who have the same mindset as you, it can really be that level of discipline, accountability, and even encouragement that you need. So I think that's great advice, and I hope anyone out there that's listening takes that to heart. You cannot do it by yourself. If you think you can, then you're way closer to the starting line than you think you are, because you definitely can't do it by yourself. One of my favorite quotes that I've heard, and I'm sure my audience is probably tired of hearing these inspirational quotes at this point, but one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard is, if you think you know everything, you don't know anything. And that's that falls directly in line with the philosophy that you just brought up, the fact that, you cannot do it on your own. You simply can't. Even if you did know everything, you might want to hire somebody so you can tell them what you know, so then they can know everything. You simply just cannot do it by yourself. I think Purple Dot Marketing is, at least for our age group, such a unique thing to get into. What kind of led you to that? I know you personally. You've been in sales almost your whole life. What led you specifically to marketing and advertising? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Yeah. I would say but basically how it started. So I'd always been interested in entrepreneurship and business ownership for a long time. And I reconnected with, I didn't reconnect, my wife reconnected with a friend of hers that she grew up with last year. And we found out when she got to reconnect with them, we started hanging out with them more, that they had been running their own business for several years now, and they were super successful at it. They're the same age as us, and it was really, really cool to hear somebody that had gone through a similar journey as I had, but had achieved what I've always wanted to achieve already. And so after getting to know him for a while, he had talked to me about, asked me how I ever wanted to start a business. And I told him, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to get into, but I have really strong skills in sales, and I've been in sales management for years before that as well. And I would handle a lot of the marketing for, some of our stores that we'd be in and things like that. But I had a thing where I had worked at many places that either became a corporation while I was there, or were already a corporation. And I saw how there was a gradual shift of being employee-centered and employee-focused to not really caring about the employees at all and just pleasing shareholders, to put processes in place that, in my opinion, and in opinion of most employees there, were not really geared towards their own success. So the one thing I knew, I didn't know what business I wanted to start, but the one thing that I knew was that I wanted to create a company that was extremely employee-focused and centered, and always putting the employee first. Like you'll hear, and that's like taboo for a lot of business owners to say, like, oh, we know we're 100% about the customer. Well, no, because that's impossible, because your company is comprised of employees who help make your company successful. And my philosophy in business is that if you are focusing on your employees 100% of the time, helping you uplift them, give them the tools they need to succeed, putting their success above your own, they will be super successful and work extremely hard, and your customers are going to be super happy because the employees are happy and they're motivated. And one of the things I saw when I worked in other places was that as the employee morale dipped, sales suffered heavily because employees didn't really care much anymore. They were looking for other jobs. They didn't feel appreciated, and customers could feel that, and the customers wouldn't feel appreciated. The customers wouldn't buy there. So yeah, that was my biggest driving factor for starting a business in general, was the people that I'd be working with, and growing Lord willing, a large company one day that employees feel appreciated and respected, and that their needs come first and as a result, the customers will be taken care of. as far as getting into marketing, I knew that I wanted to get into something that would help other businesses achieve a new culture of success. And I think that helping companies achieve success through digital and social media marketing is huge, because there's a lot of small businesses that started, 10, 15, 20 years ago when social media was not even a thing, or it was just on the rise, and there was no talk of it being a marketing tool yet. And as a result, there's still surprisingly a large amount of businesses that don't utilize it or don't really know what they're doing on it. And I wanted to fulfill that need and show them the potential of, like, hey, this is what you can do to boost your sales through cheap, like cost-effective ways of utilizing social media and getting your name out there and running ads that literally can cost you $10 a day, and you're already seeing incredible returns on your investment. So I would say those are the two main reasons why I started the company.
Hey, man, you said it yourself. You don't work for a company, you work for people. And I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who care. And that's no matter what field you're in, whether it be a religious field, a nonprofit field, a community field, and in this case specifically a professional work environment. So you're 100% right, man. If the company invests in their people, the people will invest in the customer. The company shouldn't worry about investing in the customer, because the people will do that for them. And you're investing in small businesses. So I think that's great, man. And Rich, I'm really excited for you. I'm happy for you. I can't wait to see what the next step is for you and for Purple Dot Marketing. Now, for those out there who are listening, who are maybe interested in learning a little bit more about Purple Dot Marketing, where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So you can locate us on Facebook. It's Purple Dot Marketing. It's a purple DOT, so dot spelled out. Purple Dot Marketing. We're also on Instagram as well. You can also check out our website, so www.purple.marketing.com. You can fill out a form on there very quickly to have us reach out to you and talk to you about our packages. But the main thing is at first we try to learn as much about you and your company as possible to make sure that we're a good fit for you. And so that's the best way to do it, through our website or through social media. All you got to do is just message us through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll get in touch with you very quickly, and we can start the process.
Great, man. Well, thank you for that info. I really appreciate having you on, and I'm looking forward to what you all do in the future. I'll follow you guys on Instagram, and I follow the Facebook page as well. So I'm looking forward to see what new events and new happenings are going on with Purple Dot Marketing. I'm excited. What you got going on for the rest of the day?
A lot. I'm probably be working from now until midnight, but a lot of stuff going on. We're getting onboarding our new employee today, and he's gonna be our new lead designer, and a lot with that. We're creating a lot of new sales solutions for our sales team, and a bunch of stuff going on with that. It's a lot of boring stuff, I'm sure, but for me, it's pretty exciting, because it's bringing us, it's processes we put in place to bring us to the next level.
Great, man. Well, I'll let you get to it, but before I do, one last question for you, then I'll let you go. Last night you mentioned you play a lot of Fallout. Are you getting Fallout 76?
I haven't quite decided on that yet, because I love Fallout 4, but I can't really tell what Fallout 76 really is going to be. So we'll see what happens there.
Okay. See, another reason I love you, Rich. We're gamers, man.
Yep.
We're gamers, to definitely dive in there. Well, Rich, I'll let you go, man. Do great things with Purple Dot. Do great things in your life, and I'll be talking to you soon. But thank you for some of your time.
Thanks a lot, man. You too.
Thanks a bunch, Rich, for coming on to the show. I have both you and Jules on the show now. Rich and Jules are husband and wife. So now they can argue about whose interview was better and which episode was more popular. So have fun with that, guys. And no, I will not be the referee. That being said, I really appreciate you all bearing with me on a long break. I really appreciate you all tuning in. I appreciate all of the new viewers. I can't believe I didn't put out an episode in a month, and I have new viewers. I have new listeners. How about that? That's crazy. I have some really cool things in the works, guys, coming up, and I can't wait for everyone to listen. I have a really special interview coming next episode as well about health and wellness, so I'm really looking forward to sharing that. And if you want to be on the show, you can literally talk about anything you want. You could talk about midterm elections. You could talk about your favorite coffee shop. Hell, you could talk about why mice creep you out so much. There's always something to talk about. There's always something to discuss. And I think it's great to have people on the show to talk about fun things and organic and natural topics. It doesn't have to be structured. It could be about your business as well. We've seen that in the past. In the meantime, everyone, like you all know, I record these on Thursday right before work, and it's time to get ready for work. It's about that time. So I do have to get going. Thanks for hanging in there. Thanks for tuning in another week. And as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.